Why, hello. So today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to start brainstorming questions we have about the world, just things we're curious about. And um, today's activity is very important. We're going to take 2 days to do it, and you really have to push yourself, okay? I made a list here of things that you can use to help get questions, things you're just curious about. But before you even use this list, if you know there's things you're wondering about the world, like, whatever, just go to this slide and start typing those questions. Then come back and use my video to get more, okay? But we have to work very hard to come up with nice, big questions that we can think about, all right? So today is a very important step. So today, when we think about the interests we have or questions we have, there's 4 big ways that I use to spark ideas. 1, I think about the stories we have read. There's things in the stories we've read that come from real life, and those can spark questions, okay? I think about topics we studied. So, slavery, the moon and space, human rights, we learn bits about those topics. But oftentimes those spark more questions, more things we want to know. I think about the interests I have, right? Things I just like. And sometimes I know a lot about them, but I want to know even more. And then I also want you to think about the videos you have watched. So today we are going to come up with a bunch of things we're interested in. That's it. We're going to push ourselves to come up with a list of things that we just want to know about. More. And some of you in your nonfiction explore would say, I watched 9 videos today. Well, that's awesome. It's so awesome. You're going to need 9 slides to keep track of everything you're interested in. Okay? So let me show you what we're going to do. So you are going to be listing the topics and questions you have on this slide. Felix wants to get started on his capstone wonderings too. Okay, so you're going to use this slide to list topics and questions you have. And when I list my topics, sorry for that interruption, I like to use this list. Okay, so I just kind of think about it in order of I start with stories and articles we have read, right? So right now we're reading The Bridge Home, and that really makes me think about homelessness in India. So one of the first things I list is homelessness in India, right? And between this and Save Me a Seat, we've learned a lot about India, and it's really making me think about the caste system. Like Ravi seemed to come from a very wealthy family. Vijay and Rupu do not. So I'm really curious about that, what it is, and is it still around today? Back from Tiger Rising and those other articles we read, I'm really interested in illegal pets and just that whole world. You remember we read those 2 articles during DIP and Tiger Rising. I would just love to know more about that. Okay, so then the read alouds we've done have kind of sparked some of those questions. So if I were you, I would think of the books you have read and some of the real life topics in those books. Also, you could think of some of the topics from our read alouds. We've read more than just the big chapter books. We've read picture books. My Name is Sungol, all kinds of books this year and articles. So you can think about those. If any of the questions I just listed are interesting to you, put them down on your list. Okay. So now I'm going to move on to thinking about topics we studied. We've studied slavery, moon and space, and human rights. So which of those topics spark interest, spark questions? Well, I can't stop thinking about slavery. I think our unit and where we left it is just an incredible unit. And I keep wanting to know more about slave rebellions. We haven't really talked about it. We learned about Nanny and the Maroons, remember? But I would love to know about other slave rebellions and their effect. It's one of our next questions, but I really, really, really want to know about life after slavery. That's important to me. I want to know what people did, how they took care of themselves, what the country was like. I'm really interested in how slavery affected Africa afterwards, and like the kind of cause and effect of it. Human rights have also sparked a lot of interest in me. And I keep coming back to what happens when governments find out about human rights that are not protected. What do they do to protect people, or do they? I didn't study water, and I'd kind of be interested in studying water, even though it wasn't my topic. So I think about the water crisis and what is being done to bring water to places without clean water. And I just want to know, like, what happens when you drink dirty water, like what's being done. Are there people without clean water in the United States? Since I didn't study it, I would love to know these things. Also, it wasn't quite one of the topics, but I keep thinking about like immigration and borders. And I know that there's um, people in the United States. I keep seeing it on the news. You hear about building a wall. Um, I would just love to know more about immigration in this country. When is it legal? When is it illegal? Why? Why are people against immigration sometimes? It feels like a human rights topic to me, and I'd be very interested in learning more about it. So I go back to my list. Do you see how I'm using the books we've read, the topics we've studied to spark more interest? So that's what I want you to do. Now I'm going to go on to interests I have. Now, if you know me, you know I love sports. Now, I'm not just going to put down soccer or music, but what about my interests? Do I want to know more about? That's what I want to put down. What what do I want to know more about the things I love? So here, sports. I'm fascinated in how does racism affect sports? Does it? Is there equality? Is it that an area where like it's equal, or isn't it? As you know, I'm a teacher. I'm really interested in education, and I'm very interested in how racism affects education. And I think our study of slavery has really affected kind of my interests in the things I'm passionate about. So I've thought about our read alouds, our articles, the books I've read, topics we've studied, interests I have, and now we've watched like a million videos in the last couple days. So I want you to think about what topics in those videos sparked interest and questions. So for me, I was really into the biomimicry stuff. And I just want to know, like, what other problems are scientists trying to solve with biomimicry? That video about the refugees in New York City, I that really, really made me interested. And I wonder, like, if countries accept refugees, do they have to have a place for them to live? I mean, I know some of you studied like and wrote about life as a refugee, and you talked about camps and stuff like that, but I don't know of any refugee camps in the US. What happens to refugees? I, I'm fascinated by that. Um, so, this is what you're doing. You're using this slide here to spark interest and questions you have. Now, of course, you can freestyle. If there's just things you're interested in, ask them, put them down. Maybe things about the coronavirus, whatever, things you hear, jobs people have, whatever you're interested in, get it down. This is the time to have a list of 3,145 things. Get it down. Okay. You have this, your slide should be at least this full. How many things do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13 things at least. If you only have 3 or 4, like, then go to the videos. Go to Wonderopolis. Read 9 articles. Go to The Kid Should See This. Watch 45 videos. Go to Great Big Story. Watch 3,762 videos. Come up with some questions. Come up with some things you wonder. Sometimes you have to work to get creative. You have to work to be interested. So that's what we're doing over these next 2 days. We're building a list of interests, of curiosities. And sometimes to be curious, we have to learn a little bit to even know what to be curious about. Okay, so it takes work. All right. And then these are your slides for writing your interests in, okay, and your questions. May the force be with you. Good luck.